All right, you're all set. Judy did it right now.
Okay. So I will call this public hearing for the annual town meeting warrant to order. We have a quorum. The purpose for this meeting is to offer clarifications, do our best to answer questions on the annual town meeting warrant for fiscal year 2025-2026. Judy, do you have any questions or anything you'd like clarified?
Well, there is regarding the Jim Jordan bequests. I think that there are some things that have to be corrected because they don't match up with his will. I don't know what to say or how anything can be done.
So it's my understanding, Judy, that it was written with both the attorney for the town and the attorney for Jim Jordan's estate, that both of those attorneys were part of crafting this.
Really?
Yes.
Yes, their attorney signed off on all these warrant articles.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Because I wonder if their attorney understood the difference between, especially when it comes to the scholarships. Jim Jordan's will says precisely they're to go to children of people who live in the village corporation, not just to any town child in the town residence. And I wonder if the attorneys understood what that meant. It may be possible to change it, but if you look at the will, you will see how he put those. Also, I did talk to Rolly and Leah Frechette, who were good friends of Jim Jordan and were helping him craft the will. And I understand from them that he actually was making changes to it. And unfortunately, he passed away before he could, pass those changes on.
I've heard that as well, but all we have is what
his estate attorney said. The same thing. He said, and unfortunately, that means that the existing will is what is legal and valid. So,
well, if that's the case, then those the articles which say that the scholarships can go to students in Buckfield is not correct. It's only students who can go to students who live in the village corporation area.
Which article specifically is this?
I see what she says. It says for residents of Buckfield.
Which article?
But hold on, Article 32.
32, thank you.
However, if the town accepts it and everything, once the town takes that, we write up what the scholarships are for, and we'll take the verbiage from the will itself,
right? And
those will be the clauses specific to those individual scholarships. So, I know they're for the village corporation. I would hope that no select board in the future or treasurer would change that, especially once it's documented that that's what that money is for.
I don't think we could change it because the will specifically states that.
Correct.
We would just need to honor
the intent of the will.
So those warrant articles are not properly written. I'm sorry to say, but
so 32 is missing the words in the Buckfield Village Corporation.
I think there are a couple of warrant articles.
Yeah, 32 through 34, it looks like they all say students whose families are residents of the town of Buckfield. And none of them specify members of the Buckfield Village.
Do you happen to have a copy of the will?
I do. And I want to go back to what their attorneys signed off on this. The intent is that if it's accepted, it will only be the water district kids specific to his will, because the will be attached to all documentation for these scholarships. Obviously, none of these warrant articles can be changed at this point. The town can accept under whatever terms they want, but at the end of the day, his will specifically says it's for those students. So I see what Judy's saying, because I've underlined it, but I mean, it's both the town and the estate's attorney gave the go-ahead for these. They wrote these, so.
One more thing on your list, would you mind reaching out to the attorneys and letting them know just this? And just double checking with them that neither attorney sees this as being problematic.
Yep.
Just double check that we're missing that specific language.
The condition of the town accepting the gifts is following the language of his will. If the town allows us to accept that, we are legally bound to follow the language in his will. I will email them, but the town could accept that we use the money for something totally different. Doesn't change the fact that the town's legal obligation is to follow the words of the will.
Yeah, but if we just to be ahead of everything, if you wouldn't mind just sending them an email.
May I say something?
Yes, please.
You know, I'm not. We've all understood that he was getting ready to make changes, and I don't see any place where it says 850,000 in the will. It speaks of his residuary estate.
We're getting to specific. So
again, Judy, I think so. All of these numbers were put together with the attorney from the estate and the town's attorney.
Well, okay, all I can say is attorneys can make mistakes. But the other thing is, I don't think that Jim Jordan understood that he was. I understand he was very fond of the rescue service, but I don't think he understood that there already was a training room over at in the Buckfield Fire Rescue Building, and I'm wondering if that language can be reinterpreted, possibly at some point, to help pay off that training room in the fire rescue building.
No, I believe that there was some discussion between the two lawyers about how to interpret that language. And I agree that if the town chooses to accept the gifts, that then that discussion should happen between the attorneys to see if there's any, what's the word I want, latitude,
Yeah.
in how we interpret it. And then at that point, what I foresee is the opportunity for community members to come together to make that discussion, to have that discussion on how best, here are our options, what do you all think? Yes.
Well, I then would suggest, I personally would say to accept the articles and then have some discussions, because as you all may know, the Zadok Long Library, which is a town office now, but the will says the trustees of the library should make the decision on scholarships. Well, I think perhaps Jim Jordan didn't realize that the library is now a town department, although it was a special trust, and it wasn't operated by the town until fairly recently, and it was necessary to go to court, and the court was willing to allow the town to absorb the library, which meant absorbing its funds, which were considerable. So I just want to point out to you that sometimes wills are changed if the meaning can be used in another way.
No, I understand. Yes, Cameron.
So when I sat through the meeting with the estate and the town's attorney, it originally started out that they believed that the scholarship items within the will would fail because of the fact that the town took over the library. After discussing it, it was determined that the estate's attorney did not believe that they failed and they would stand as they were. But as far as everything else in there, I mean, I've sat through meetings with both the attorneys, had discussions, watched the discussions between the two attorneys. Right now, it's just the only thing that's waiting is, does the town accept it or not? From there, the intent of the will is what the town has to follow for everything. So like the residuary estate, which the $850,000 figure came from the estate's attorney of what's currently in the residuary. That money can only be used for the maintenance of those two properties. So none of that funding can be used for anything other than the maintenance of those two properties or the betterment of those properties.
So if we look at Article 30, this is asking the town, do you accept this property and the residuary of the estate to maintain the property? And that's what Article 30 is, just those two pieces. And you can't have one without the other.
If 31, did you say 31?
30.
If 30 fails, the town could accept 32, but there would be no residuary. The real estate and the residuary would go to the Hells Angels. So even if they accept the land,
Then there wouldn't be any money.
there would be no money to do anything with the land.
And from all of the work and research that you've done and members of the board have done and the attorneys have done, the amount of money residuary estate should cover the cost of these properties for quite a long time to come.
Well, we can never spend the principal, so
Right.
as long as interest rates, I mean, even if interest rates are at 1%, what's 1% of $850,000 a year? 8,500. There you go.
Yep.
I think the tax value or the tax assessment, taxes that were assessed to the property are ballpark of $2,000 to $2,500 a year. So I mean, yeah, the money has to stay with the properties, but
But this shouldn't become an expense
no,
to the town.
no, unless the town votes to put something recreational associated with that property, there's no expense that we would take on.
Good points. Thank you, Judy. Something else?
Well, I just want to say, I think we probably should vote to accept it, because we don't just want it to go to Hell's Angels and have them up and down 117. However, if at a later date we find we might want to go to the court and the court might be willing to expand the meaning of the terms in his will, which they did with the library trust, it does happen. Why then, we could keep it. If not, we could later say we will not accept it and let it go to the Hells Angels. So I would say first thing, accept it.
What could be done is if you found a way to make the building generate a profit, that money could then be used to pay down the fire rescue station building, as that supports rescue.
Yeah.
You just couldn't use the money from the principal to be used to maintain the property. So there is a way that what Judy's looking for could be done without changing anything.
Right.
It would just have to be, what's the plan? What are we going to do? And how are we going to do it?
And I would expect that if the town chooses to accept all of these very generous gifts, that then the select board would discuss forming an ad hoc committee or group, so people could come together to discuss what are the options, what could we do, what's the future, because it would be up to the voters of Buckfield which direction to head in with this property. And
As long as it
The funds-
complies with the requirements.
right, as long as it complies with the requirements of but there are options.
Mhm.
And it would be up to the community which options they wanted to go with.
Yeah.
Judy, any other articles?
No, that was the main ones.
Mhm.
Thank you.
No, thank you for sharing your perspective and knowledge.
So for those people who will be tuning in later to listen to this or watch this, just to clarify, there are 5 seats on the budget committee. There was no budget committee for the 24-25 fiscal year budget process because no one chose to volunteer. So there are 5 seats available. It would be fantastic for 5 people to volunteer their time to be on the budget committee. Because the more people there are to inform decision-making, I think the better the decisions can be. So there are 5 seats available. Come on down to the town office.
And if you're looking for a more detailed perspective of what is in the budget, we do still have the videos up on our town's YouTube page. You can also find them right on the Town of Buckfield website under the budget committee. There are 3 different videos. The first one features many of the heads of the departments there that we just bounced some questions off of. The second option is labeled page by page, and that is where we go through it, just page 1 to end. Straight through. So if you're looking to do a little read along, I'd say that second video is for you. If you want to hear the perspective of the department heads, it'll be that first video. The third video was just briefer than those first 2, and were just some community, like very specific questions, but we didn't go through it page by page. But again, you can find that right under the budget committee on the Town of Buckfield website.
Judy.
Question, Judy?
Yes, I see that Leah Frechette has joined. Leah,
Hi. Yes.
Leah knows more about Jim Jordan. She was there with him, helping him write his will. So if you have any questions to ask her, Leah, we already discussed this, but
Oh, you did? Oh,
that's
sorry.
okay. You're just coming on, and I thought you might have something to add that might be helpful to the selectmen.
Judy,
Yeah.
we can circle back if other people or if Leah has questions or
Comments, yeah.
comments. The final thing to just put out there that voting is June 10th. That's next week. Polls are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
If you would like an absentee ballot, something that you want to be able to take home and sit at home and take your time on your own to go through, you have until Thursday, the 5th. It's 2 days from now.
Oh, my
to
heaven.
come and request an absentee ballot. Absentee ballots must be received in the town office by 8 p.m. on June 10th in order to be counted. But you still have time to come on down to the town office and request an absentee ballot, and you may take care of things that way. Again, that's until Thursday, 2 days from now. And then absentee ballots must be received by 8 p.m. on the 10th, which is when the polls close here at the town office. Were there any other questions or comments about the estate of Jim Jordan or anything else?
Yeah, so you just discussed what was in his will, but then it'll be voted on at on the 10th, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. No, sorry, I missed the beginning. I had company and was just now able to get logged in.
No, we're glad you're here. Life gets full. We did go over the fact that the attorney for Mr. Jordan's estate, as well as the town attorney, works together to formulate these articles. So both attorneys signed off on the wording of these articles. I guess it had to be very specific. So that's where these articles came from. Not just in
Okay.
it.
One comment that I did have, or a question, it said like these scholarships were for the kids in the town of Buckfield. And Jimmy, and even in his will, was very specific that it went to children that, from parents and children that were in the water district.
We did just talk about that, and because he was specific in his will,
We
if
are
the town
bound,
chooses to accept the gift, we are bound to
the wording
to
of
the
this will.
wording, to his intent. But the attorneys felt that these warrant articles were
Worded appropriately.
appropriately. But yes, the town cannot change the intent of
Okay.
his
Request.
request. Thank you.
Okay, yep. Okay, that was the only comment that I had.
Well, thank you for that.
All right.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Take a recess between this public hearing and the select board meeting. 10 minutes?
Sounds good to me.
So I'd like to make a motion that we close out this public hearing of the annual town meeting warrant for fiscal year 2025, 2026.
You don't make a motion, you just close it. You can't make a
Okay.
motion in public hearing.
I'm closing this public hearing. We will come back for the select board meeting in 10 minutes.
Thank you, everyone.
Judy, I'm gonna leave it on. I'm just gonna shut the camera off or shut the mic off while I walk outside.
Okay, that's
When you can
fine.
hear it, we'll be back.
Okay.
Wireless. We're unable to complete your call. To speak to a customer service representative, please hang up and dial.
You're good to go. You hear us, right, Judy? Okay.
Neil, you good?
Yep.
Okay. So let's call this Town of Buckfield Select Board meeting for June 3rd, 2025 to order, and we have a quorum. We'll begin with old business, but important business. We have the Education Exploration Committee update. I will pass the torch to you, Neil.
How are we doing tonight? Good, I hope. So we're at the point now where we need to ask each select board's permission to do a petition for our town. And this petition is going to just kind of get the feel of where the town is. So, you know, we'll need each town's participation and resources to do that. That's kind of where we're at right now. So I'd just like to ask the select board's vote of approval that we can move forward with that, because obviously when the education board was created, we have no power. So I want to make sure we clear each hurdle with permission. So
This is for a,
I was gonna say, what's the language of?
is this a survey? I'm sorry, specifically, what is this?
so this is the actual petition that is required by the state of Maine to basically continue. Well, I guess you could do it a couple different ways. So this doesn't have to be the actual petition that it's a good question as far as how we can word it. I guess what we want to do is have a petition in order to see if we can get enough votes to move forward, which that means for us to move forward is to ask the town and towns to maybe come together at some point to, you know, pay for lawyers and that stuff to start that piece of it. If
So
that
what
makes
I'm
sense.
thinking is to change the language that this isn't a petition, but perhaps a survey. And then this could go out to the members of all three communities to just see where people are at. Yes.
So anybody can circulate a petition
Right.
to initiate the withdrawal process. I think what the education, and I'm not speaking for you, I'm just my interpretation. I think what they're looking, because everything has to be lined up perfectly, right? In theory, Hartford, Sumner,
Right.
Buckfield, all have to do this at the same time because there's time limits and there's certain steps that have to go through. The petition, they'd have to collect the required number of signatures, which is it 10% of the last gubernatorial election?
Yes, that's correct.
So they'd have to collect 2/3 of the last gubernatorial election, which I'll have to have Alyssa look that one up, which he'll need that information, or whoever wants to circulate a petition in the three towns. If that petition is successful and turned in, each town then has to have a town vote
Right.
to withdraw or not. And at that point, on that vote, you would vote to raise a certain sum of money to pay for attorney's fees.
Right.
Neil, one of the things that was what I talked to Jeremy about today when I called him back from yesterday was something along the lines of the ED 279 and getting the board's permission to request that be done.
Correct. Right. I mean, basically, you know, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. So, I think his name is Jason. For some reason, I can't think. My mind's not thinking. Anyway, Jason Long. Yeah. So he actually called the state of Maine and talked with someone there that stated that they could do a ED 279 and it's not going to cost us a penny. And the way they do it is they set it up so that they do each of the three towns and then they do one as a group. But the catch is the request must come from a committee that is approved by the town. And so because we don't have any authority as of yet, I'm asking for that authority to request that ED 279 to be processed by the state of Maine.
What is an 8279?
ED.
ED 279.
Essential. Central programs and services. It's the form that dictates it's the formula. It's like a 9-page report or 12-page report that breaks down how many teachers are required per student, how many students are in the district, how much money in each of those categories it would state funding come from, and then it establishes what the required local share of the minimum required local share of that school district, if you will.
So for this piece, Neil, the committee is looking for approval to ask for that information to be collected at a state level?
Correct.
That'll give them more accurate numbers that are centered around our community and not just.
Right, because basically, once we have those numbers, then when we come back to you guys and say we'd like to do a petition, we'll have, you know, we'll be able to put those numbers on the piece of paper for people to think about the petition. So they can actually see how much of state funding we would get as 3 schools, you know, how much it's going to cost us, that type of stuff, or as close as we possibly can. Because right now, the ED 279 that we're going by is just a rough guess.
Right.
You know, and basically it could be $1 million more in our favor, or it could be $1 million less in our favor.
And that would make a difference.
It would, yes.
So it kind of seems to me that I will take a vote in a minute about collecting information. But then at some point to hold some kind of hearing for all 3 towns to come together to be able to listen and ask questions before being asked to make a formal decision.
Right.
So I hear the Education Exploration Committee asking for approval to see ED 279.
Yeah.
To seek an ED 279. Do I hear a motion?
I will make the motion for the Education Exploration Committee to seek an ED 279.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion? I'll call for a vote.
Celia, aye.
Peter, I.
Sandra, aye. Neil, go get your ED 279.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other information you need support in obtaining?
No, not as of right yet. Just one thing to keep in the back of your minds is at any point during this withdrawal process, even if we get halfway through it or 3/4 of the way through it, if we decide that it's not in our best interest, we can withdraw. Nothing is set in stone. We can stop the process at any point in time.
And this entire process is contingent on the support of all 3 communities. These are not decisions that the select boards will make. These are decisions that the communities as a whole will make.
Correct.
And to put a plug in for you, the next Education Exploration Committee meeting will be June 12th at 6:30 p.m. in Hartford. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, at the Hartford Community Building there by the town office.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Anything
Thank you.
else for Education Exploration? Okay, moving on to new business. We have a consent agenda.
I will make a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. On the consent agenda, we have a end of month report from the library. They've gone on great field trips. They went to a farm. They have new flowers. They sold books and raised $300. They are getting another pass that people from our community can go sign out for the Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens. Whole many programs, and they are all free. And beginning Friday, June 6th, they will be open from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Fridays. So that's new. Yes,
The disbursement warrants too, so it's on the record.
say the number.
Yep.
Yep.
And the warrant numbers.
And what?
The warrant numbers and the amount.
Okay. And then we also have payroll and accounts payable warrants, payroll warrant 98. You want amounts for each one?
No, just the total.
Okay, payroll warrant 99 and accounts payable warrant 100. This includes RSU 10 school payment, the total being $212,993.98. Any further discussion? Call for a vote.
Azalea, aye.
Peter, I.
Sandra, aye. The consent agenda is accepted. Next, we have the approval of minutes of the May 27th, 2025 Select Board meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the May 27th, 2025 Select Board meeting.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote.
Peter, I.
Sandra, aye.
And I will abstain. I was not there.
All right. We have accepted, we've approved the minutes of the May 27th, 2025 Select Board meeting. Next, we have a road commissioner update. This is new. There is on the town website, and I'll ask for specific directions on how to get there. On the town website, if you have questions or concerns or something that you want to report, anything about roads in Buckfield, go ahead in and you would enter the road name and explain in detail your question or your concern or your issue with the road. The road commissioner will read these and address them and let people know what the results are. Currently, there are 4 pages of issues and responses. All of these will be available. Would it be underneath this?
The select board packet has everything.
Okay,
that was
so when
sent to
you
me.
look into the select board packet, all of these issues and responses are in there. And going forward, after every select board meeting, all of these issues and responses will be posted. So this will be shared with everybody. People can look and see what other people have entered and what the results are.
And just so people know, I didn't share people's names or contact information. It's just the road name and what the issue was.
Thank you. Yes, so there's no identifying information. If you have a concern or a question about any of the roads here in Buckfield, I encourage you to use this reporting form. It documents when you put in the information, what information you put in, and it also documents any responses from the town, from the road commissioner. So everything is documented and we'll have
at
a better
present,
idea.
it lives on the website, on the left-hand side of the page underneath the town office hours. Just below that, you can see in blue, report a road issue, and that will direct you to this form.
And that's why I'm sharing the screen.
Thank you.
So blue, report a road issue. If you have trouble using this, you can certainly call or reach out to any one of the select board members, and we can take the information and submit it for you.
Yeah.
And then we'll give you copies of whatever responses come back. So there's that.
Tail end of the report, if I may.
Yes,
Just
please.
kind of addresses some of the common, what is the crew working on right now? So,
Or is there any of this you want to share with everybody?
yeah,
In
so
detail? Okay.
road grading has been a big question. When are we gonna grade roads? As I've discussed with all of you, our grader's down, it's out of service. I'm not letting anybody operate it without brakes. So we needed to rent one. The only available window was on 6/9, which is next Monday. And then I put 6/9 to 6/13. We have it for a week. So the crew will work on grading of the roads. And then if we have any free time with it, we'll try to hit some of the windrows on some of the roads that are the worst. If we can't, we'll be using the excavator or looking for another date, but right now grader availability is pretty limited. Shoulder work's ongoing. When this question was posed numerous times, I think I had spoken to the fact that we had ordered a gilly grader, which goes on the side of our trucks. The guys have already been using it in front of the cemetery. This isn't the gilly grader we ordered, but this is one we manufactured to try and, I'm hoping that the new one will work a little better than our fabricated one, but
Stopgap measure.
yep,
Yep.
we wanted to get a jump on it. So they've done a bunch of work today up on Paris Hill Road. I mean, there's still a bunch to do, but they are making progress on that. When they're tied up doing that, they can't really cold patch because there's only 3 of them. So we will cold patch as time allows. I'm aware of many of the potholes that are out there. Purchase Road is one of those ones that have been discussed. And on that sheet, I had mentioned that my thoughts on Purchase Road is, we continue to cold patch. If that's an issue because it keeps tearing up, maybe the answer until the town is willing to fund the paving of that road is to reclaim it. But we'd still need funds to reclaim it and turn it to gravel. So I think I put a recommendation that the road committee get together and discuss that, as well as some other roads that are issues like that. Another question I get all the time is Brock School Road. There's an RFP out right now for paving bids for next year. In order for that to happen, the budget's gonna have to pass. If the budget's rejected, that may all change. So just keep that in mind. Cemetery and town-owned property mowing and weed whacking, that's ongoing. 2 guys do that every day, all week. Street sweeping's planned, but we'll have to rent a street sweeper. It hasn't been done in a few years. And then obviously equipment maintenance is ongoing, and as needed, as stuff breaks, we fix it. It pulls us off the road. So that's where we are at the current moment. If anybody wants to see the responses, I just scrolled through them quickly, but they are on the website.
So everything's there. Road committee, how many openings are there coming up as of June?
I think right now, Jerry Wiley's still active. I think Jim Lowell's still active. That website's not updated.
Okay. There's James and Mark, June 30th.
James, Mark, and Jerry are all active right now, but Mark and Jim, their terms end at the end of the month, so they'll have to re-up or we'll need more members. It's a 5-member seat committee, so we're still down 2.
So there are openings on the road committee. We encourage people to sign up to be on the road committee, to be a part of making the decisions, or putting together the information that will inform the decisions that are made.
Then make the recommendations on
Right.
what our projects should be.
Right.
They usually try to plan out 2 or 3 years ahead. So Brock School Road, for example, has been on that list for like 5 years, but with COVID and the increase in paving, we got behind a year, and I mean, we're limited to what we can do with the budget that we have. So the through streets were the priority. We're still not finished with Paris Hill because that last stretch to the line needs to be completed, which is also part of this RFP. So once that's completed, the through streets will be done, and then we can start focusing on these back roads. So my idea, and I'm pretty sure that's the direction that the road committee is going, but I'm not going to speak for them, is do the mile of Brock School Road from Darnett to Shed Hollow, and then the following year do from Shed Hollow to the corner and where we finished paving. I think that might be a little further than a mile, so that might be too much, but there's a stretch there that's not too bad that could probably just have a surface coat. But we'll look for somebody who has the skill set to say yes or no on what should be done after that.
So I think we reach out to members of the road committee and ask them to come together sometime in the next 30 days. That meeting will be open to the public. So if someone does not want to be on the committee, but would like to participate in forming the future of what's happening on the roads, people can certainly attend that. This will all be posted online in the here in the town office. And again, if you are somebody who has experience and, thoughts and opinions on the roads here in Buckfield, we would love for you to put in for the road committee. Anything else about roads?
No, I just ask that people in town be a little more patient with our crews. They're doing the best that they can. I know I've said it on Facebook and I hate Facebook, but the proper platform for reporting this stuff, you know, I created this form Friday after my son's graduation so that people could be able, it would compile in a location that isn't Post-it notes and phone calls. Because I get it, there's potholes, but getting phone calls on a Friday afternoon or a Friday evening or a Sunday morning about it it's a struggle, especially for the foreman. You know, he deserves time off too. And there's nothing we can do about it on a Sunday unless it's an emergency. So
there is a phone number that folks can call on off hours, correct? And then it goes to an answering machine.
got a voicemail.
It has a voicemail. What number is that, Cameron?
I believe it's, hold on, let me pull it up on the website. Yeah, and I want to reiterate, please don't call Preston's personal cell phone or my personal cell phone.
Right.
We both have phone numbers.
So you had to contact us on
No,
the website?
I'm trying to figure out where it is.
He's looking. So if there's an issue, if it's an emergency, call 911 and they will inform the town manager about what's going on, and the town manager will respond to an emergency situation as needed. That's in his contract. If it is not an emergency situation, then folks should call the town number, which is monitored. So even though somebody doesn't answer it, it is monitored, and people will be responded to who call. What's the number, Cameron?
It's 576-9121.
207, correct?
Correct.
So if it's a non-emergency on off hours, that would be 207-576-9121. That would be any town or municipal issue, including roads.
No, that would be roads. That's
That's
Public
just
Works
for
Department.
roads?
Yeah.
Okay, so I apologize. So 576-9121, roads issues on off hours.
Right.
What if it's a municipal issue? Is there a phone number other than your personal number?
So I'll give my work cell phone number, but I will not answer it on the weekends unless
It's monitored. It's monitored.
All right, so that one's, I'll just pull it up on the screen too and let everybody see it. Do I have it on the website?
So the town manager has a work cell phone. But
So
he has hours that he works and hours that he doesn't work. Again, if it's an emergency situation, you call 911 and dispatch has his number and they will let him know where he needs to be to deal with an emergency. Other than that, you'd call his cell phone number and leave a message. And those messages are screened, recognized, and will be addressed during business hours.
that phone number is 207-518-8377.
8377, and we'll post these somewhere else too. So that's how people should share information during non-business hours. There is also a job posting. It's on the website. I believe it's been posted for almost a year, Cameron, correct? Looking for a full-time employee for Public Works. So this job opening has been posted for about a year. If you know anybody, or if you're somebody who is so inclined, please apply for this job. we'll get more done with a full crew. Anything else on roads? Okay, number 4, audit update. Cameron, I'll let you speak to this if you want.
So we were supposed to have a board workshop yesterday, but because of a medical issue, we requested that it be rescheduled. So the audit update will be on June 16th at 5:30 p.m. here at the Municipal Center. I've already started to receive some of the draft copies of it, but there's still some stuff that needs to be, they need a couple of small items about like mainstay retirement. So at that meeting, Ron from RHR Smith, or a member of his team, will be here, or at least on Zoom,
Available.
to report out on the audits to all of you.
And the audits will be available to the public on June 16th and going forward. So all of that information will be available to everyone.
Correct.
And these are the audits from what years, Cameron?
It would be from 21 to 24.
So from 2021 to 2024, and at that point, will we be current?
Yeah, we've already signed an engagement letter for this fiscal year.
Fantastic. Any other questions or concerns with the audit? Okay, we're in a public comment period. If anybody has any comments?
Neil's
Anybody
just
else out
shaking his
there?
head no.
Okay.
No, it's just him.
Am I correct that we do not need an executive session? Does anybody know something I don't know? Okay, I make a motion that we adjourn today's meeting at 7:03 p.m.
I'll second.
Call for a vote.
Celia, aye.
You're right.
Sandra, aye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Yes, thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Neil.